we've explored how to know we are traumatized, what to look out for, and even the long-term reactions that we are likely to experience. Now, how do we, first of all, recover and build resilience? One thing we need to remember is that whatever event that happened that traumatized you has already happened. And there's nothing you can do about the fact that it has already happened, unfortunately. So what we need to do is to come to terms with that reality and see how we can build resilience to live a meaningful life regardless of that past event. Now, the physical and emotional reactions are common and they are to be expected. So it's okay to be afraid that this happened, or it's okay to be insecure about relationships because your primary relationship with your parents wasn't that great. But it doesn't end at just the knowledge of it or just experiencing that event, because your mind is trying to process that information and it will take time. But by processing the information, you can put in measures for your mind or for your brain to start working to heal you or to heal itself from that past trauma. And that is where the challenge is. How to successfully live with the reality that I have experienced this. This is my unique life story, and I can still live a very progressive and meaningful life regardless of that. First of all, I will encourage you to forgive yourself and anyone that is involved in this trauma cycle. So whether it's your parents, whether your siblings, whether your spouse, whoever or whatever it is, or that stranger who stole your items or barged into your home, or that person who sexually abused you, it is time to forgive those people and forgive yourself from the guilt of, oh, if I didn't do this, maybe this wouldn't have happened. Or if I didn't go to this place, probably this wouldn't have happened to me. If I didn't drive, I wouldn't have had this accident. And we guilt trip ourselves with some of these clauses. So probably today is the sign, is the sign you need that this is the day to forgive yourself and forgive anybody that is involved in that trauma cycle. Now, you're a human being, and it's only human beings that experience events. It's human beings that make mistakes. So be patient with yourself, be compassionate with yourself. Start seeing yourself as somebody you love. And by that view of yourself, you begin to have a healthy relationship with yourself, which opens up the premises for you to heal from your past traumas. So how, in coping and building resilience, how or what are the things we can do to shield us, not necessarily shield us, but to boost us to go through these phases of our lives? Now, trauma over time can cripple very significant parts of you. So even your strengths, the things that you know you can do, it cripples you and you just don't find yourself doing those things again or having the ability to do those things again. So first of all is to start moving your body. When we engage in physical activities, say like walking, running, swimming, dancing, things that stimulate the brain. Now the brain begins to release certain hormones, and these hormones begin to improve upon our general mood and well-being. So there are hormones called endorphins. There's a hormone called dopamine. Dopamine is like the feel-good hormone of the body. Whenever something good happens to you, dopamine is triggered and it begins to produce enough levels of it into your body, and that's how can we feel good about ourselves. So the more we begin to engage in physical activities that help us to move, not necessarily work. So using the workaholic experience, the fact that you are always working doesn't mean that you are on the move. Especially if that immense work is to allow you to run away from your current reality. We need to start making time to engage in physical activities so that your brain that is holding on to that part of you, that trauma bond, can begin to start looking at other ways of engaging the brain. So now it's not that the brain is forgetting about the experience, but the energy it is using to hold on to those memories, it is now releasing some of that energy to begin to release hormones that will start making you feel better about yourself, have a clearer mind on how to address the issues and the concerns. Now, secondly, we can self-regulate our nervous system. The brain is what manages the nervous system. So by engaging in some of these activities, like I mentioned earlier, walking, running, etc., you are engaging the nervous system already. Another way to engage the nervous system is to breathe. Breathing helps us manage anxiety, and not the normal breathing in oxygen and then breathing out carbon dioxide. But these are intentional breathing exercises that we can do to begin to allow the brain, allow the mind, allow the body to calm down. Now, let me take you back a bit. Whenever there's immense stress stored up in the body, your body is contracted. So all your muscles are alert. Every part of your body is working in order not for you to break down by that event that is going on, whether it's still going on or has gone on, and the memories of it are lingering. Your body is in this, like you have a fist. That is how the body is programmed if you have such energy sitting with you. And by this contraction, your blood begins to produce more sugar or glucose to insulate you. Your heart is beating faster than the regular to insulate you. So we already know that the mind or the body is already programmed on alert mode. So it is to shield you from that trauma breaking you down, or in quotes, for you not to pass out, because you can actually pass out. I gave an example of a client I had who has seizures. When the body can no longer hold the amount of energy that is sitting in it, you will pass out. But before you pass out, it will insulate you. It will put in the measures to keep you from passing out. So your sugar levels will be high, your blood levels will be high, your pulse will be high, and your brain is working constantly on alert to keep you from breaking down until it can no longer hold, and then you break down. But when we intentionally breathe, and by breathing, if this was a face-to-face session, we'll all learn and do the breathing exercise. But before we end, we'll try doing it in our own homes, just so that in our own time, we can practice it from time to time and then see how we get perfect with it. So you breathe gently through your nose. In your mind, you are counting up to 5. So breathe till it gets to the peak of your breath. Hold your breath for another 5 seconds, and then you breathe out through your mouth. Now, as you are breathing in, you are not breathing into your chest. So that's the technical part of it. You are breathing and feeling the air into your tummy. So your tummy should be rising as you are breathing. And then it gets to that threshold, you hold it, and then you breathe out. Now, whenever we do this kind of breathing exercise, the brain begins to, in quotes, let go gradually of those harsh memories that it's holding on to, because oxygen levels begin to increase. And as oxygen levels increase, your sugar levels begin to drop. Your heart begins to calm down in pumping more blood. And then you realize that you are becoming calmer. If you are going through an anxiety attack and immediately you just stop everything you are doing and start doing the belly breathing, give yourself 30 seconds. You realize that the palpitations, the headache, the tightness of your chest all begin to fade out because of this very breathing exercise and how the brain is restored by doing this breathing exercise. So I shared here some apps you can use to help you in the absence of a therapist. There's the Breathe to Relax, and then there's the Calm app. So if you have an Android or iOS phone, you can download any of these apps. Myself, I have used the Calm app, and it has a lot of stress release programs that you can practice on your own, and it helps you calm down, even not just to manage trauma, but the everyday stresses of your life. Now, the next point is for us not to isolate. I mentioned earlier that avoidance fuels the anxiety. So the more you avoid that incident, the more you are teaching the brain that I don't want to come into contact with this, so continue being alert about it. There's a way, or there are therapists that use facing your fears as one of the ways to deal with trauma. So if you meet trauma specialists, some of them, or one of the approaches they can use to help you manage is for you to face the fear. Facing the fear means confronting that very thing that hurt you in the past. Some people, I heard someone's story who, a guy who was sexually molested by another guy when he was, I think, 11 or so. And he's been living with the guilt and the trauma of having been molested by another man. Now that he's an adult and he started going to therapy, he came to a point where he felt like he wanted to confront that fear, that person. And he called the person who did that to him and confronted him, asking him, why did you do that to me? Why did you? And it was a very, very emotional and sensitive conversation that it took him a certain level of courage to come to that point of confrontation. Not all of us can come to that point, but it doesn't mean that we need to avoid it. So in the absence of confronting or facing your fear, in instances where you cannot, so let's say if you have a road accident, you cannot forever avoid the road because you have to transport yourself some way, somehow. So there we can use the facing the fear approach, where we get you into a car and then we keep driving. And as your mind, or you are going through that event, you are relearning or reteaching the mind that, oh, okay, so you can actually do this again. Oh, so it's not even that threatening. Okay, oh, so you see, you drove past the place where your phone was snatched, or the place where that person took your purse. And by the time you are doing it for the first, second, third, fourth, fifth time, some people might even lose track of that spot when next they are passing there. So you finish passing, they realize that, hey, this was the place this happened. And now the thoughts is not to torment you, but it's for you to appreciate your growth and how far you've come. So whatever condition or whatever situation or event that posed that threat to you, you might want to consider indulging rather than isolating. The moment you begin to distance yourself, even from people, there are people who avoid going to events, avoid meeting people, going into the presence of people just because they feel like they don't want that vulnerable part of themselves to be shown. But your freedom is not in the avoidance. The moment you begin to engage, start going out, start socializing, you are relearning new ways of the brain accepting the concept and helping you to deliver, in quotes, yourself from the bondages of those memories. Now, third, this should be like the fifth point or fourth. Okay, fourth point, take care of your health. When I gave a scenario or an explanation to how the body is programmed when we have trauma sitting inside us. That your sugar levels, your heart levels, all these things are working at a hyper pace because of the memories or the trauma events sitting with you. So the more sugar your body begins to produce, the more you are being exposed to cardiovascular disease like diabetes. And the more your heart is pumping more blood at a faster rate, the more you are exposing yourself to hypertension. And the more unhealthy energy is sitting in you, other organs like your kidney, your brain, and even your stomach, you can have gastrointestinal diseases like ulcer and all those things. And some of these things, it's not because you're not eating healthy, it's not because you're not taking care of yourself, but it's because there is a certain energy sitting in you that is not healthy for your body, and it will start working against you. So you might be eating well so that, oh, I don't even take alcohol. There are people who begin to develop kidney problems. They're like, he doesn't even take alcohol, she doesn't even take alcohol. So we don't even know why she's having kidney problems. And it is because there might be some background information that is causing significant stress for the person. WHO has given us information that the current leading cause of cancer in women is depression. And depression could be one of the aftermaths of trauma. So if you have your cortisol levels, the hormones that are at work when we have anxiety, depression, high stress levels sitting in our body, you realize that they begin to trigger certain cells or certain organs to start functioning against themselves. And by the time you realize, it's becoming cancerous for you. So these are the little ways that our mental health is linked to our physical health. And if we don't take a holistic approach to take care of ourselves, we might find ourselves wanting, and then that will cause more stress and trauma for us. Now, get enough sleep. Keep a healthy sleep routine. If you're having sleep problems for 72 hours, you might want to start keeping a sleep routine. If this prolongs for 90 days where you are not sleeping well or you're not sleeping at all, you need to see a specialist as soon as possible, either a psychologist or a medical doctor. Not necessarily to put you on medication, but to explore sleep hygiene routines that you can put in place to start helping you sleep better. Now, the use of alcohol or other substances to get us to sleep, to knock us off, is not something we encourage in this time, because one of the unhealthy coping mechanisms that a lot of people use is alcohol and substance use to get away from the realities of their lives. The more you do that, the more you are exposing yourself to physical health harms. Now, eating balanced diet. Even if you're having struggles with your appetite and you don't feel like eating, eat because you need to eat. Your body needs that energy to work. So you can spread your meals across the day, that you're not eating big amounts of food that will turn you off, but you can apportion your food in smaller bits and then probably eat every 2 hours. Time yourself. You can set a timer on your phones or something, and then remind yourself to eat every 2 hours. Eat something small. Of course, avoiding fried and sugary food for healthy reasons, and then eating more of omega-3 foods, healthy oils, green foods, the diets that promotes quality health or boost our organs to function properly. These things also go a long way to improve our brain health. And the more your brain is in a healthy space, the more it's able to work well to help you overcome the traumas of your life. Now, at what stage do we ask for help? This is the crossroad for a lot of us. That when do we start talking about the issues that are confronting us? When do we seek professional help? Now, if the symptoms do not decrease over the first 2 months, remember I say that if after 90 days, you're not sleeping, you're not eating, and the distress is still with you, you need to speak up. You need to seek help. So your threshold is the first 2 months. That one you can cope. Your body can give you the insulation, the right insulation to cope. But unfortunately, many of us have been coping with this stress or the traumas of our lives for 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And we are like, but I've managed to live life and it's still, it's okay. I'm still alive and I'm living. But if you had dealt with it or you have set yourself to recover healthily from it, you might be living a more quality 50 years of your life, a more decent 50 years of your life, a more stress-free 50 years of your life. So it is not too late to seek help. If you find yourself struggling with any of these things and you've gone past 90 days, please try and seek help. Now, when there are thoughts of suicide or you feel like life doesn't make any meaning to you anymore, even though you might not have attempted to take your own life, but there's always this feeling like life is just meaningless. Why am I even here? Can I just sleep and not wake up? You have that, it's like you're just tired. You are too overwhelmed. Then that is the time to talk to somebody or talk to a professional about it. Now, if you realize an excess use in alcohol and other substances as coping, you're not just taking a glass of wine, you're not just taking a bottle of beer, but now on a daily basis, you find yourself like drowned in alcohol or whatever drugs, whether cannabis, that's marijuana, or you're smoking shisha, which is the latest norm now. So if you have young people, if you are an elderly parent and you have young children who are going so hard on shisha, this is the time to start probing into their lives and finding out what might be fueling these actions. If you realize that you are not sleeping well, again, like the symptoms we mentioned earlier, so I've boxed all in the point one. If all those symptoms do not go away for the first 2 months, by the time you are entering the third month of the same cycle, you need to seek help. And if you are having excessive use of alcohol, you need to also seek help. All right. So these are the 3 points that I put together, that if you see or you identify yourself getting to this tangent, then it is time for you to start talking to somebody about it. It is time for you to vent. It is time for you to start your healing process so that the remaining years of your life will be more healthy, you'll be a happier person, and you would have lived past your traumas or the strength of your traumas holding you down, and you have a better story to say about yourself in the future years to come. So if we have any questions, I'll take them at this point so that we continue the conversation.
Yes, but then I'm just wondering, for people who are not bold enough to do that, and it's not a scenario that I'm just personally feeling how difficult it is for someone to forgive themselves. Is there could there be a tactic or something someone should do, or what you're supposed to tell yourself to find yourself in that place where you feel, I can forgive this person? Because for me, but I don't know if it's something Rosette, can can handle it. But I'm just trying to think, you can imagine if the person who, let's say you're being abused, the person who has been abusing you see the person. You only see the person. You understand? So it means every time you see the person, it's a trigger. Maybe it has been a trigger for years because, But then where do you summon the courage to forgive? Because I think that could be one of the reasons that most people think escape or running away from those people. You'll want to avoid the person as much as you can. Yeah. Yes. So I'm just wondering, how could it, what could make it a bit easier? Point? Yes,
okay.
It's just me thinking. Yes.
That's a very good question. So sometimes it's easier to confront, depending on the situation. There are people who you might never be able to confront them. And it starts with accepting the fact that I might never be able to confront these people on what they have done to me. Maybe even if I confront them, they might not be sorry. And that is not in your control zone. But what you have to do is come to a conversation with yourself that, can I be at peace with myself, with these people, even if they are not sorry? So if you find yourself accepting that, okay, I can live with the part that this is not in my control, whether or not these people are sorry or not, or they even acknowledge that they've hurt me. But can I come to a point of conversation with myself? And it starts with you talking to yourself, you relearning or unlearning that memory of holding on and harboring certain feelings for these people. That can I come to that point where my parents might not even be sorry that they treated me bad, or this spouse might not even acknowledge that they did hurtful things to me and it has affected me this way. But can I come to that point where, with or without their apology or remorse or whatever, I can start a peaceful relationship with myself, even in their thoughts? It's a difficult place to be, a very difficult place to be. And it takes a certain level of courage to bring yourself to that point. If you're unable to successfully bring yourself there, you might find other healthy ways of coping with that thought or with those feelings. That if it's your parents, you can't avoid them forever. Some way, somehow, you will come into contact with these people. If they are family members, some way, somehow, you come into contact with them. So if we are able to put ourselves away from these people, so put you as Rosette in one category, and then that person in another category. The moment you begin to add that person into your box or into your plate, that is where the overwhelmingness becomes a lot. But if you take them away from your plate and see you as you, that this is how much this has affected me. Me holding on to this person by their actions against me, this is how much it has affected me. Do I want to proceed or progress with life feeling more drowned and trapped with them in my boat? Is it time for me to get them out of my boat? And forgiveness is not only to say that, oh, you see the person and you are now chatty and giving them a kiss, and no. Just coming to that point of peace that you don't matter in my plate anymore. And even if you are there, the strength of your hold inside my circle is not as it used to be, or will change, because I'm beginning to take the center stage and not you. And by there, we will start doing or putting in actions, activities. You can first start by exploring yourself, having a self-awareness conversation with yourself, that who truly am I? Because the trauma, like I mentioned earlier, can alter certain parts of our personalities. But there's this true identity that we know that this is who we are. Can we start, revising or going back to identify who that person is? That, okay, so these are my strengths. I'm a good planner. I organize things well. Whatever your strengths are, I'm optimistic. And then now, can we start applying those strengths to ourselves? So if you are good at planning, how can we start planning our lives in the right direction? Because we always want to think of our strengths as how we project it on the outside. So you're a good planner because maybe you plan things for people, but how well do you plan for your own self? You are optimistic. Are you optimistic in your own situation? So you are patient, but how patient are you with yourself? You are enduring. You endure things that people do to you, but how enduring are you to yourself? To understand that you are a human being, these mistakes might have come your way, and it's okay for you to have experienced them. What lessons have we learned from them, and how do we move on being guided by those lessons?